Wow. I first definitely want to thank Daph and Brad and the whole Sober Tribe for having me on. It's been amazing meeting you guys. I mean, it's been like a connection right away, and it's been great. So I thank you guys and thank you guys for all you do for so many people. Okay, so my story. So my first experience with alcohol, I was 6 years old. So I remember it very vividly. I was playing baseball with my dad, and my dad was an alcoholic as well. So we both had our issues and stuff like that. So we're playing catch. He has a McDonald's cup with him. So he goes to go to the bathroom, and I get pretty tired. I'm playing baseball. So I went to go take a drink, and you can take a wild guess what that was. So I took the biggest gulp I think I've ever taken in my life, and it started burning. It ended up being beer. So at that instant, I'm like, all right, I got to get this, out of my throat here. So I ran inside, and I remember every detail because our floor was wood floor and it wasn't sanded yet, and I had a bunch of splinters on my feet by just running through there to get to some milk. So one of my first steps of dedication, I guess. But I go in there and I'm chugging this milk. I drink probably, half a gallon. And all of a sudden I start feeling this euphoric feeling. And I'm starting to wonder because, my dad always felt, he always seemed off, but he was happy, So I'm like, wow, this is what he was feeling. This has to be it, So this was new. But since then, that's when I started thinking, I got to keep this feeling going. What can I do? So I didn't drink since I was 6 years old, but I did look for ways to kind of alter my mind and kind of forget about everything. So it was candy, it was TV, it was video games, whatever it was. But mainly it was just being able to, any uncomfortable conversation I had, I was able to just block it out, like pretend it wasn't there. Essentially, a blackout. Something little like my mom asking me to pick up toys. That was uncomfortable. I don't want to have emotions for it, so I just blocked it out. So that's kind of where it started for me. That's kind of where I, started trying to get into that kind of stuff. Um, so I was 6, and when I turned 7, my dad ended up going to prison. So he was kind of out for a while, most of my very young childhood. So it was just me, my mom, and my little brother. So, and that kind of pushed me to feel like I need to be the man of the house now. Now, I will say that that was unnecessary because my mom was an extremely strong woman. She still is, and took care of us very well. We grew up going through tough times, having like popcorn nights, candlelit campouts, and taking showers at the local the water park. And I found out later, like I was around 18, I'm like, I think we were poor. I had no idea. Popcorn was, we had no food in the house. Um, Candlelit dinners, the electric was shut off. The water was shut off when we went to, go take showers at the water park. We had no idea. So the amount of strength is amazing. So, but I still felt like I needed that. She used to tell me, like, Max, you can get in trouble. It's okay. You can get in trouble sometimes, But I felt like if I did anything to upset her, make her life harder, I wasn't going to do it. So that's kind of how it was. It was kind of that way steady until I turned 13. So when I turned 13, that was where I was able to, my brother was old enough. He's 4 years younger than I am. He's old enough to start taking care of himself. So at this point, I'm like, all right, I got to play some catch up here. I got to start doing my thing because I didn't do anything from this time, no fun. So that's when I started first experimenting with like smoking weed and drinking alcohol, and it's amazing how many people started at 13. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed that, but I've had an assessment for a lot of people, and it's almost always 13. So that's when it started for me. And at that point, that's when I started getting into like a different crowd. Like I had a good set of friends. I grew up, I was very smart, you know. I was in all honors classes. I was doing great in junior high. And then I started going here and there, experimenting with things, kind of separating from stuff. So that continued and escalated a little bit until I got into high school. So high school is kind of when I went even harder. Now I still started with, good classes freshman year, but I met a whole nother group of people, like seniors, juniors, stuff like that. And I started drinking and smoking a little bit more. And through those years, I started experimenting with different things like psychedelics, Adderall, mushrooms, to the point where I was skipping school. I was probably at high school half the time. I was there half the time, and the other half I was out in my car or, telling my mom I went somewhere else. And, I was unfortunately very good at making people believe, anything I wanted to, which extended my whole entire recovery through the whole thing. I would get so upset about people believing what I was telling them. In the back of my head, I'm like, please don't believe me because I don't want to live this way anymore. So I had that thought in high school, and it went on further from that. So I got up to the point where I became a senior, and this is at the very end of my senior year, I started getting into more opiates. So I experimented with different pills and things like that at first. You're at a party, let me try this pill, let me try that pill. And then it got to a point where I was using a lot. I was taking handfuls of pills at sometimes, and I was out of money. I was asking people for money. I didn't want to be home. I was crashing at friends' couches. And then I started with like Percocet, and then I got into like Oxycontin, and then I was doing some Xanax mixed in there. And I was going pretty heavy with it. And then I started experimenting for a short period of time with heroin. So heroin was something that like I really liked at first. Obviously, it's like, pretty much every drug that we get into at first, that's what it is. And, that escalated for a short period of time. And during that time, I've never been an IV user. I never injected, but I will say that that's only because I didn't go to the wrong house at the right time. I know if I would have went into a house and someone was injecting, I would have done it. I know I would have. So, but I didn't. So that I kind of got sick and tired of that. So I ended up getting off of it, and I went through my withdrawals, which, I mean, withdrawals are so bad. I mean, I've went through pretty much every withdrawal you can think of, and they're all horrible. Um, all horrible. So I got through that. I did that. So I decided, okay, I'm just going to drink and smoke for a while again. You'll find this throughout it. That's kind of my foundation of, all right, I'm just going to drink and smoke. I'm just going to drink and smoke. Now, at that time, I wasn't realizing, all right, I just need to drink and smoke, but I wasn't thinking a step further. Why do I need to do anything to be okay? Why do I need to find something to be okay? But, obviously we're not thinking that way at that time. So I got off opiates, did alcohol and weed for a little bit more. And then I got introduced to cocaine and Adderall, or cocaine and ecstasy, sorry. And I just kind of went flip flop. I started going into uppers and stuff. And like I mentioned, I didn't have any friends. I was burning a lot of bridges with opiates. But I found that when I started doing cocaine and ecstasy, I'm like, well, maybe I can sell this a little bit. That way I can have some, and then I can take, the obvious things that dealers do. So I started dealing, right away, and so I started gaining more friends, not the very good friends, but I had a lot more friends now, and that felt good. I had a lot of money at that time. I was, unfortunately pretty, successful in that field, and it was getting worse and worse and worse as I got better and better and better in my head. It got to a point where I was up for probably 2 weeks at a time. And that was very, I mean, when you're up for that long, you're hallucinating, your body is like losing weight, and, it was a really rough period of time. And that's kind of when my violent streak started going. When I was, high on cocaine and ecstasy and being a dealer, it got to a point where I was being violent with people when I thought I needed to be, people who owed me money, stuff like that. And, it was just horrible, and that was anywhere I went. I'd go to concerts and I'd fight security guards and everything like that, which that never stopped at all. But now I don't, which is good. But that's how I was. And then it got to a point of where there was a gun involved with the deal. So it was a very scary moment. And I decided, okay, I need to get out of this. I need to stop. So when I got out of dealing, I ended up stopping all the way for cocaine and ecstasy. So I ended up stopping. The big part of why I stopped is I got introduced to bath salts. I don't know if you guys remember bath salts, the synthetic methamphetamine, but I got involved with that. So when that happened, it had the similar effect. I was, high on amphetamines. I was everywhere. I, couldn't sit still. But this time I didn't have any money because I couldn't make any money off of this. I was pinching for pennies. I was losing so much weight at this time. I've seen pictures of this before, and it's skin and bones. My eyes were sunken. It's like, it's really scary to see. And the insane thing is, I thought I looked totally fine. I had this crazy confidence that, I looked great and things were going great, but it wasn't. It was a horrible time. My family was so sick to their stomachs. They were so scared, and so I'm up for 2 weeks at a time still. And then I ended up being homeless in my car for about 2 months. So, and this was in the winter time. So it was in January, late January, February, something like that. And I was sleeping in my car. And so I was almost freezing to death every night. I'm laying in my car, not sleeping, just staring at the ceiling, hallucinating, wondering if I'm going to be alive tomorrow, believing that I really am not going to be alive. So, and the insane thing about that period of time is that I had a place to sleep. I had a place to stay. Me and my mother always had a great relationship. She has never been judgmental. She's always cared for me. So at my mom's, I had a warm bed to sleep in. I had warm food. I had a loving home. Anything I wanted, as far as comfort. But I would rather sleep in my car almost on the brink of death than see my mom and see her smile on her face or have to bring up what's going on in my life. That's the insanity of all this. So that's where it was at that time. So I ended up getting to a point where, okay, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. So I end up getting off bath salts. And again, that withdrawal was horrible. It's just, yeah, I mean, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. Sweats, aching, everything like that. So I end up going back to just drinking. I tried smoking weed again, but because of all the alteration of my mind with, hallucinations, methamphetamine, stuff like that, it paranoid me too much. So I just got back to drinking. And side note, I found out right when I stopped using bath salts about the whole zombie people eating people's faces and stuff. I didn't do that, so that was good. I was happy that I didn't do that. So, yeah. So I ended up getting off that. I just started drinking again. And the drinking, things were a little bit normal at that time. I was 19 when that started going back to normal. I did, like, when I drank, I drank a little more than everybody else, but it was still somewhat okay in my mind anyway. I ended up being the life of the party. My family was happy that I was back at family events. If I came, it was like, all right, cool, Max is here. We're gonna have a good time. He's gonna drink a lot, but hey, that's a normal thing. And that ended up turning into more of a, instead of life of a party, it was, okay, Max is here. I hope he doesn't make a scene. Let's just kind of cross our fingers. I'm still thinking I'm the party guy and I'm having a lot of fun, but it got to a point where I just had to, all right, everyone's crossing their fingers, don't make a scene, because I made an absolute ass of myself constantly every single time I drank. Very embarrassing things. So I was blacking out about once a month at that time, and it was really just kind of waking up, not knowing where I was. But most of the time at my place. So, but it was still, the blackouts were starting at that point. So then I found a girl. All my girlfriends and women before that I was with, the only real factors I had was, are they going to support whatever habit I'm on? And are they as mentally unstable as I am? Because if they're not, I'm not wasting my time here. I was horrible for them. They were horrible for me. It was just not good. But this girl, I told my mom about her, and she said, and pardon my French, but she looked at me in the eye, she grabbed my shoulder, she said, Max, don't fuck this up. I'm like, okay, because she's the kind of girl who can have a beer, and be done and beautiful. And she said, she's beautiful, inner beauty, outer beauty. Don't F this up. I'm like, okay, I'll try not to. So I meet her and I end up cutting down drinking a little bit because I want to try and make this happen. That didn't last very long. I started continuing to drink a little more, a little more, a little more. I was blacking out more and more at this point. And then we found out that we were pregnant. So we found out we were going to have a baby. And I don't know if this was the reason I drank even more than that. I don't want to say it is, but I have no idea. That's how off my whole brain was. I don't really know the big motivation, for that. So I ended up getting to a point where I was drinking every single day. First, it was drinking here and there. Then it was when I drank, I was binging. And then it was binging every single day. Waking up with vodka in my coffee, mostly vodka, just a little coffee to make it look like it was coffee. And then I was drinking to the point of I was drinking about a gallon of vodka a day once I looked back. And it was a very significant amount of alcohol. I was just downing as much as I possibly could. And this is where my blackouts started becoming more and more frequent. So the thing about blackouts is when we drink, it's like a shower head of alcohol on your frontal lobe of your brain. So, and that's where your short-term memory is. So when you're drinking, you're damaging that part of your brain, and that's what makes you not remember the night before. So the thing is if we don't let it heal, then you're going to black out twice as easy next time. So I'm blacking out after 3 or 4 shots, but I'm still not remembering what happens. So I'm still drinking this excessive amount of alcohol, but I don't remember any of it. And till one night I decided to call off work. Now, things that I wasn't aware of when I was blacking out, there's a few things. One of them, I was, I guess, very suicidal. I had no idea. When I was aware and awake, I didn't feel that way, to my knowledge. But I found out a few different things. There was one specific event where I ended up getting a public intox, and I went to court. I went up to the judge, and he told me that, well, you missed this whole entire court case, a couple months ago. And I'm absolutely baffled. And the judge could see on my face, like, he doesn't remember it at all. I found out that incident. I was laying down in the middle of the road waiting for a car to run me over because I got into an argument with a girlfriend, which was around early 19 or something like that. And I had no idea that it even happened. I got arrested. I got the note to go into court the next day. I must have just crumpled it up and threw it away. So I ended up being on probation and everything like that. So anyway, I'm drinking to this success now. And I decided, it was a regular day, I decided to call off work just to go and drink. I can't remember the reasoning. It was a good day, it was a bad day, it was bright, it didn't really matter, and it baffles me to this day. I don't really know the main motivation for doing that, but we don't really need one. So I end up blacking out again, but this time I woke up in the intensive care unit in the hospital. I don't know how I got there. I'm looking down, I got IVs in my arms, there's family all around me crying. They told me that I swallowed a whole bottle of antidepressants. I don't remember doing that. Luckily, I threw those up in the parking lot before they came and found me there. My uncle, who I was drinking with, drove me there and, put me out in the parking lot. And I was upset with him for a while, but once I think about it, he could have very well said, hey, just have him sleep it off in the other room, and I wouldn't be here today. So, I thank him now. So I'm laying there. They told me my blood alcohol level was 0.36, which is the level of surgical anesthesia. So they could have did surgery on me. I would have had no idea. So everyone around me is crying. I got like 10 family members, 12 family members around me, not knowing what's going on. Max is on, he's near death here from drinking this much. My girlfriend, who's pregnant with their daughter, is terrified, not knowing what her life's going to be. And my heart is broken. And it was the worst day of my life, So I'm sitting there, and this is what happened. They let me out the next day, and I'm in this position to where the thing is, when we're using, we have all these problems and issues, and we're able to put this bubble over them. And it's like the one coping skill that we know is going to work. So, but it's not dealing with anything under it. So we got this bubble over this stuff, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, whether it's tolerance or whatever. And all of a sudden you're told, you can't do this anymore. You got to figure something out. So I don't have my only coping skill anymore. So all these emotions are hitting me in the head like a freight train, and I have no idea how to handle them. No clue. So I'm freaking out, and I just process everything. I'm like, I got to do the only thing I know how. So I went and got another bottle of vodka. So I ended up drinking again to excess, and I ended up in the intensive care unit again the very next day. So I'm in there again, the same blood alcohol level, 0.36, and this time was different because the only people there were my mom, my uncle, and my dad was on his way from Columbus. Me and my dad had a great relationship at this time. We built it. And so my girlfriend's not there, who's pregnant with their daughter, and I'm lost. I have no idea what to do. So my dad gets there, and I tell him, obviously, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to go somewhere and get treatment or something. I can't do this, obviously. So I go to Columbus with my dad. I live with him. I go to IOP at the Neil Kennedy Center in Columbus. And that's when things started. Now, I'd be lying if I said I liked recovery in the beginning, that I liked sobriety. I didn't at all, really. I thought it was boring. I didn't know what to do because that's all I knew how to do. Like, I wasn't in jail, and I could remember yesterday, so that's cool, I guess, but it wasn't really enough for me. So there was two incidences that kind of really kicked me into gear. One was I told my girlfriend, my typical line of, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get sober. I tried sobriety from time to time before this, and it was like a 3-month thing. I'd get close to 3 months. I'd be, drunk for 3 months. Then I'd be sober for 3 months and just BSing everybody, and I'd be drinking in the background. So, she heard this before. So I'm going to get sober. We're going to be a good family. I'm going to be a good dad, stuff like that. And her answer was, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. We're not together. And it kicked me back. I'm like, oh, like that didn't work, you know? So I'm lost. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. You shouldn't be with me. You know, you shouldn't have been with me. So I said, okay. So I took a step back and I was kind of pushed to start thinking of just myself. We ended up getting back together about 2 weeks after that, but it still sustained me focusing on myself. So that event, and then the event of where I decided to have a bowl of cereal. Now, this bowl of cereal was very significant to me. I got up, I had a bowl, ice cold milk, frosted flakes, sugar sprinkled on top, and I went to take a bite, and I realized I hadn't had breakfast in years. Milk is the last thing you want when you're drinking in the morning when you're hungover. And any other drug of choice that I had, the only focus was to get that drug of choice. Breakfast was the last thing. So I hadn't had breakfast in years. So I went to go take a bite and I started tearing up. I enjoyed that bowl of cereal more than anything. No one enjoyed that bowl of cereal more than me that day. I can guarantee it. And the reason about that is I started saying, if I can enjoy this just because of my past, I can start seeing that in my whole life. You know, just being able to remember yesterday is such an amazing thing to me. You know, all the basic little things are the most amazing things to me because of the past that I had. So that's when I started really thinking about, all right, this recovery thing's pretty cool. The sobriety thing's pretty cool. So I ended up going to IOP. I finished IOP at Neil Kennedy. Things are going good. And then I come back to Sandusky, where I live, and they recommend continuing care. So I come back home. They're recommending continuing care. I think I'm pretty cool. I go about 4 months, and then I start realizing like I deserve a beer. You know, I've been sober for 4 months. You know, I got this down. I deserve one. You know, so I went to the store. I got a 6 pack of Bud Light Platinums, and I drove to the recycling center because nobody was around that, and I'm trying to hide things. And I drank 2 of them, and then it just kind of hit me. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do it. I know where this is going to take me. I know it, and I might not come back. I won't come back if I start this again. So that was my last drink, and that was February 27th of 2014. So that was the last time I drank or used anything. So I ended up saying, all right, I need to get back into this. So I went to Bayshore Counseling. I started IOP all over again. I went to continuing care, completed continuing care, and things went good recovery wise from there. After a year, I decided to look into education to become like a counselor. It wasn't even really intended. I saw something on Facebook and it said become a chemical dependency counselor. I'm like, oh, that might be kind of cool, you know. So I looked into it, and then 2 years into recovery, I became a chemical dependency counselor at Bayshore Counseling. So I'm kind of an alumni there, and which is very cool for me. I work directly with my counselor that I had. That's the person I do like the DUI weekend schools with, and it's just a really surreal thing. I've worked there for 4 years now, and I absolutely love it. I love my job. From 9 to 5, I'm able to communicate with people and help people in recovery, and it's an amazing thing. So I have that, and being able to speak at different places, because I speak at different places, detox places, rehab centers, different things like that. And the way that I started thinking of new perspectives was I was just kind of trying out my perspectives with people. You know, the perspective of we're not bad people. You know, I started getting like sick and tired of addicts being degraded. You know, it's really hard to decide to get in recovery when you could have 20 years of sobriety in recovery. You're meeting someone, they don't know that. They're like, I really like this person. This is cool. They're a good person. And then they find out you're an addict, and like, oh, well, never mind, And it made me sick. I'm like, that is not true. Addicts are the strongest people I have ever met in my life. I've never met anybody more determined than an addict or an alcoholic getting that drug of choice. It's insane. And that is now switched over to sobriety. It's, now we're dedicated to, oh my God, this life is beautiful. Like Daph mentioned, I'm a dad now. I'm married to the girlfriend I discussed in the story. I'm married with her. We have 2 kids, and we are ridiculously happy, kind of annoyingly happy. A lot of people get annoyed by it. And the thing is that people don't understand is the reason we have such a good relationship is because she was there when I was on the brink of death. She was there when we did not know what was going to happen or if we're going to have a future. So literally any problem in our lives now is nothing, and it's so easy to brush off. So that's what a lot of people don't realize, is that's why we have a good relationship, is because we know how hard it can be. And that goes for absolutely, anybody. So I started speaking about these different perspectives about what I'm talking about. And I just constantly kept seeing people, like, their shoulders went down, like, oh, I'm not a bad person. This can be a good thing. It makes me scared to think of a life without addiction for me, because I wouldn't have the goals I have today. I wouldn't have this book published that presents all of the perspectives that really helped me get sober. I wouldn't be able to speak at all these places. And now my goals are skyrocketed. And I am not saying this to brag. I'm saying this because if you would have told me I was here talking with you guys and that I'd have a book and everything when I was sleeping in my car, almost dead, I would have said, you're nuts. There's no way that is going to happen. What are you talking about? So, recovery, it's almost unfortunate that we're the only ones that get to experience recovery, because recovery is, you get sober. That's the first part. That's somewhat the easy part. Now we got to figure out life. So we're striving to become a stronger person every single day of our life. And it does. Life gets better every single day in recovery. And someone with 20 years will tell you that. Me with 6 years, it's still every day, and I can't wait for every day. So that's kind of how everything is, for me. And that's what I strive to present. And that's why I'm so happy to be able to talk to you guys today and have the opportunity to communicate with you guys, talk with the Sober Tribe, which has been a huge family to me. I look forward to seeing you guys every day if I can. And it's just a beautiful thing. And it's so refreshing to see how many people are so supportive of recovery, and they want to spread the word of, anyone who's trying to reach out. I will say right now that if you are out there and you're struggling and you want a book, or you need a book, or you have a family member who needs one, please contact me. I will get you one. I promise, without a problem. Because I have not made a dime off of the book, and I don't plan on ever, as far as I know, because the whole point is spreading the word. Any money I get is donations towards giving books away. I give books away every single day, and it is, I just love it. So again, thank you everyone for having me come and speak, and that is all I got. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Max. Oh my God. I knew you wouldn't disappoint.
Oh,
What,
good.
what an incredible story.